Welcome to week 3 of Rebuild Mark. I'm Mark Still, and I had a taxing week. The workouts went really well. In fact, they went so well that this morning I was supposed to do a very easy zone 2 ride. I couldn't even do that. It was like 80 watts and worn out. So Coach Kristen has put off the aforementioned FTP test that was scheduled for tomorrow, and I'm just gonna go have a fun ride out in the dirt with my friend Dan. The training was mixed up pretty good this week. So part of Kristen's goal with getting me ready is building up volume. So some of the workouts I did were pretty straightforward. Basically zone 2 for an hour or zone 2 for 90 minutes. But some of them were pretty tough. There was mixed in intervals with fun names like Batmans and 3x and 4x. So those were hard. Trying to hold X amount of watts over 3 sessions as it gradually climbs, it was really tough. And I think that's why I was a little tired this morning. In the interval part, the other part, the volume makes sense. I haven't ridden a lot lately, so I need to get the volume up. But those intervals are meant to help increase my functional threshold power. And high intensity intervals like I've been doing this week are a great way to pack in lots of progress, make lots of change from A to B in a short period of time. And that's important because I don't have a lot of time between now and June 1st. But so far, so good. Got plenty of workouts in this week. Like I said, just one outside, the rest on the trainer. But they went well. I did the watts. I did the time. I didn't do all the watts because those workouts are hard. But I did most of the watts. I really like having the structure, somebody looking over my shoulder, checking on things. Had my weekly meeting with Coach Kristen this morning. She's happy with the progress. Frankly, I was a little disappointed in some of the wattage numbers that I could not maintain. But as she said, we have to figure out where the current limit is. And that's what this last week and a half has been designed to do. And so we put that FTP test off until mid-April. I'm going to go for a fun bike ride tomorrow because riding bikes is supposed to be fun. And if you have a good coach, they make sure you have fun riding your bike. I like the minutia of riding bikes, and part of those pieces and parts that I like to play with are tires. This bike came with the Specialized Tracer Pro in a 700 by 42. That's been a really good tire. It seems to roll really easy. It's got good grip in the corners and the loose gravel. I like it a lot, but we're going north out of Emporia this year. That, by all accounts, is rockier and chunkier and more demanding than the southern routes. So the bike will take up to a 47 millimeter tire. I went to my local bike shop today and bought some, they're not the Tracers, they're the Pathfinders in a 700 by 47. I'm gonna mount those up this evening, take them on my weekend ride. I think the extra meat will be good. And as you remember last year, the advice from the person you take advice from, Yuri Hauswald, was bring the meat. All the tire volume you can stand will help. I think 700 by 47 is going to be the trick. I have figured out when I can get the Tracer Pros in the 700 by 47 if I end up liking this tire volume, because I want this extra tread down the center. The Pathfinder is cool because it's got this slick tread. So for rides around the house where I have to ride on the road a lot to get to the dirt, this is kind of helpful. But on that day in Emporia, I think it'll make more sense to have a full tread pattern. I think the Tracer Pro is a better choice. And one of the reasons to go to a larger volume tire is flat protection. I can run a little bit lower pressure. I've got more to work with as I roll over rocks, but it's a pretty good chance that a flat may happen. And so I wanted to have extra preparedness. So I've got Dynaplugs. While I was there at my local bike shop picking up my tires, I also picked up the Dynaplug Racer Pro and some refills. So I still have in my pack from last year the little bacon strips and things, but by all accounts, the Dynaplug is probably the quickest way to try and get a flat plugged up and keep moving. So I'll keep this in my pocket. I've read a lot of people's advice on, you have all this stuff, but it's stuffed in a saddlebag, or in the case of this bike, it's stuffed in the SWAT container within the frame, and it takes you more time to actually get the stuff out than it does fix the flat. So I'll keep this in my pocket. I'm also gonna poke a hole in some tires and test it. I've never used a Dynaplug before. I don't want the first time I use it to be in the heat of Kansas. I mentioned last week that a weird, unexpected benefit of the rear Future Shock was that it makes riding a trainer more comfortable. I now ride the trainer with the Future Shock wide open with as much movement as it's got, and it makes I can't not say it, a tremendous difference. That bit of rhythm moving is kind of a game changer when it comes to sitting on a trainer for a long time. And of course, I'm not suggesting you go buy this bike just so you can sit on the trainer with it. That's clearly not its intention. But a lot of trainers are now incorporating some aspects of movement into their build. And as I mentioned last week, some people, if you Google that or look at YouTube videos on it, a lot of people come up with some clever ways to get a little bit of movement in there. Whatever you do, that little bit of movement, rather than being locked 100% in place, makes a very unpleasant thing to me, sitting on a trainer, just that much more tolerable. And we need to celebrate the wins. In my one outside ride last week, I PR'd a section of road that I ride a lot. Now, was it my increased fitness from the workouts my new coach has given me? Is it this really cool bike with its future shocks? Was it wind? Was it the fact that I'm 8 or 10 pounds lighter than I was when I set the last PR for that over a year, almost a year ago? I don't know what, but it's encouraging and it makes me feel like I'm on the right track. When this early into training this year, I was able to go out and ride and have fun, but also perform a little better than I had in the past. So the coming week for training is a little different than last week. So I'm going to do a fun ride tomorrow. My instructions are to go out and have a good time on a bike for 2 hours with friends. So I'm going to do that. Next week, it's not as much. So there's still volume because we're going to build up to longer rides on the weekends and that functional threshold test, which I will not escape sometime in mid-April. So it'll be a little bit more of the same. It's supposed to snow again here, I think early next week. So I will likely spend more time on the trainer. I don't know how long I can do that, but so far it hadn't been so bad. And you might be thinking, what's an FTP test? Well, FTP itself is your functional threshold power. That's that power you can hold for a long, long time, an hour or so. It's good to figure that out. Coaches love to know that number because that's how they build power-based training routines for you. And so we guessed mine currently at 220, which is a little sad because the last time I did that test 15 or 18 years ago, it was more like 275. But times change and I changed. But knowing that number allows a coach like Kristen to build workouts that get the most out of the time I spend on the bike and get me closer to the goal. And don't forget, I really look at this as a group project. So what are you working on? What can I help with? How can I support you? Let me know in the comments what you're working on, what goals are coming. This is changing fast, and I've got to figure out a lot of things like, how do I carry all this gear on a bike on that day? What kind of clothing should I have? What's the different nutrition options that I've got going? I'll be working on all that soon. So if you've had experience and success with that, let me know what works for you. And if you have questions for me to supplement whatever you're doing, let me know in the comments. And you can follow along with all the rides on Strava at Uphill Still. Of course, follow along here on YouTube or watch everything on slowguyonthefastride.com and on Instagram at slowguyonthefastride. Let me know what you're doing. Let's all get together, get off the couch, get on a bike, and at least for me, I want to cross the finish line before the sun in Emporia, Kansas on June 1st.